Nick and Sam, taking you to Jungle Land. Bengals pride, it fills the air. Every week we're always there. Touchdowns, tackles, all the plays. Bengals roaring every way. Stories, news, and game recaps. Jungle Juice, we bridge those gaps. Welcome to the Jungle Juice. Nick and Sam, let's break it loose. Cincinnati, hear our call. Bengals fans, unite us all.
Welcome to this week's edition of the Jungle Juice podcast. I'm Sam Gormley. He's Mick Nelson. Mick, how's it going?
Oh, it's going good. Been dealing with the thunderstorm for the past 30 minutes or so. Looks like it's starting to kind of
it's
clear
just
up,
starting here. It's just starting here. We got a nice little rumble behind us. Luckily, we're under a tornado watch, but it looks like it's just going to end up being a nice little, mid-June thunderstorm. So that's kind of nice. But it's one of those things, I have a metal or aluminum roof or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that perfect balance of rain right now that just makes me want to go get under the covers and go to bed. But we can't do that because we have a podcast to do.
Yes, we do. I think you got a second podcast to do.
I do. Which, I mean, listen, big on, shameless plug from the press box, which is my second podcast. Oh, the lights just flickered. Uh-oh.
Oh.
So if I just disappear, that means that I guess the storm is either one taking me out or I've completely lost power. And then in that case, I guess you just end the show you could talk about it.
Or I go solo. Yeah, that
how long could you go?
Start inviting. Here's my thing. So back when I was in my freshman year of college,
the Mix Six.
I had the Mix 6, which I tried to do as a college radio show, which was really a podcast because it was over internet waves. The Mix 6, and I tried to do a 2-hour set solo, and I had no idea what the fuck I was talking about. Back when I was in college, I had no idea what I was doing, and it was maybe one of the hardest, most social anxiety driven things I have ever done. I sounded like an idiot. I know for a fact I did.
Luckily, I mean, I could probably do it but that's because I'm a professional BSer. That's literally what the radio industry is. But it is hard.
I feel like I could do it now. If it's talking about the Bengals, yeah, but also I'm a little uninformed on stuff right now. Because I mean, we're going to talk about it right now, the Shamar Stewart contract situation. I'm still kind of confused as to what is necessarily the hold.
It's
up
messy,
here.
But
it's really messy.
Let's start with that. Are you at all? And I see we got a couple of questions here too. We're going to come to your questions, Cameron and Donnie, here in a second. Are you concerned at all? Because I'm not.
About Shamar Stewart?
Yeah, Shamar Stewart. I'm not concerned.
No, but this is a really rocky way to start off a relationship with your first-year rookie first-round pick. That's even if the contract situation gets resolved, you've already got a pretty rocky relationship between that guy and the front office. Say if Shamar Stewart ends up taking off in his rookie, during his rookie contract, and to the point where us the fans say, hey, we really want to extend this guy.
Do you think
that Shamar's camp just what?
Do you think that in 3 years that would really matter?
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like this has already gotten to kind of a personal level.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
because a lot of this
Shamar would be talking to the media about it this way.
A lot of this sounds like, though, he is getting some terrible advice from his agent. Some terrible advice.
It sounds like he's got one of those David Mulligetta types.
Yes. And that's a little worrisome.
It's
a little worrisome for sure. Let's see. We got a couple of questions here. Cameron asks, do you think the defense will be better if Trey gets signed? Yeah. Yep. I don't think there's any question about that, right?
Wait, did somebody really ask that?
Yeah, well, that's a question. Yeah, 100%. The defense will absolutely be better under the defensive coordinator. So I guess he's asking, also the defensive coordinator, will Al Golden make that much of a difference? What do you think?
I honestly, it's a wait and see. I don't think we've seen Al Golden as a defensive coordinator at the NFL level. If we have,
We have not.
If we have, it's been pretty far removed. He's ran some pretty good defenses at Notre Dame. Has had some good talent come across there. I mean, you look at this most recent draft, he had Xavier Watts going to the Atlanta Falcons. He had players like, oh man, why is my mind blanking already on the? This is a bad start already. Xavier Watts, the linebacker, Jack Kaiser, that's his name.
Bengals
Howard Cross,
the nose tackle.
Yeah. So you've had some good players come out of the Notre Dame program on defense, but it's an entirely different game at the NFL level. Offenses are not ran the same way as they are in the college level. He was on our linebackers coach in 2019 to 2020, or no, 2020 to 2021, I believe.
Correct.
And
was behind the decision to draft Logan Wilson, to draft Akeem Davis Gaither, and to draft Marcus Bailey, and I would argue all three of those were hits.
Yeah, they're all good picks.
Yeah.
But they didn't start performing, at least in terms of the grading. They didn't start performing well until Al Golden left and James Betcher came in. Now, how much of that is that they were in the developmental stages of their careers? They were obviously in years 1 and 2, and they took that year 3 leap that everybody talks about in their third seasons. And it just happened that Al Golden wasn't the defense, or wasn't the linebackers coach then. But yeah, I mean, I think it's a wait and see game. We haven't seen him be a coordinator at the NFL level yet.
I do see here too. Donnie, asks, what do you think about Trenton Irwin going to Jacksonville? Good luck.
Yeah, cool.
Him
and Trevor Lawrence should be in ads together.
And then Donnie asks, Mick, this one's right up. Do you think Jacksonville could be a sleeper team?
Still working on my team evaluations. I do like where the offense is headed. I think the defense has been improved. Last year, they were one of my what's the opposite of a sleeper? Like, I wasn't bullish on the Jaguars. I was very bearish on the Jaguars last year, and I ended up being
right,
spot on with that. Yeah,
you're right once every so often, right?
Yeah, a broken clock is right once.
Yeah,
great.
Because wasn't it? Was it Ravens last year or the year before where you're like, they're going to be terrible.
I thought the Ravens would be a regression. I didn't say they'd be terrible. I said they'd be a regression candidate.
I mean, they only were the 1 seed, right? I mean, listen, they didn't make the Super Bowl though.
They've only had a Lamar Jackson MVP season, and then another Lamar Jackson should have been MVP season. I didn't think Todd Monken was going to pan out that great, and he has, unfortunately for us.
Our main topic for today, though. Oh wait, Trey Hendrickson talks have resumed as well. What's your confidence level that something gets done?
80%.
I think that's right. I think that's
80%.
Right.
I think something's going to get done.
Something is, it has to. I think it has to. Honestly, on both sides.
This defense will be pretty bad. If it might be the worst in the NFL if Trey Hendrickson's not on the defense. There's just too many unknowns in the pass rush department, and I mean, your best unit's probably your linebacking unit.
Yeah, and even then, you got some questions because we
haven't seen Demetrius Knight play yet. I think he could probably be a plug and play guy. I mean, the dude's 26. He's been playing a lot of college ball. I think he'll be able to acquiesce to the.
Look at that word right there.
I don't even know if I used that. Did I even use that word?
I have no idea. We're gonna just say you did. We're gonna say you did. I was just there was a huge clap of thunder outside my window, and then you dropped that word. So like my ADD brain is now like blown away. I'm just lost.
Also, can we before we get started, we got to talk about the beard here.
Yeah,
Sam Wormley is growing a beard.
You got to try something
like it might be more full than mine already. And he's been, how long have you been growing this thing?
A month, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, like you don't have any the problem I have with mine is I think I have too much like blonde in it.
Well, see, it is like I've looked down, especially like in the mustache, and I'm like, is that gray? I'm like, God, I need to get out of this industry.
Maybe
I'm already turning gray.
No, I've always had blonde in the beard.
Yeah, I got a little bit of it, but yeah, trying something a little different, right?
Yeah,
it's summer.
Good.
Well, thank you.
Maybe we should put a poll out there of whether should Sam keep the beard or not. Can we throw a poll in here? Is that able?
That used to be a thing on Facebook, but they don't allow that in Facebook Lives anymore. I don't know
StreamYard
why
doesn't do that? Well,
no,
that's stupid.
No, that's nothing that we can do.
Ooh.
The main topic for today is, one of the common complaints I think that fans have about the Bengals, other than just contract and so on, has been their lack of drafting and some of the draft quote unquote issues that they've had. Right? Fair? And so what we decided to do is we wanted to look at the last 3 drafts, not 2025, because obviously we have no idea how that's going to look, but in 2022, 2023, and 2024, break these down and see, were they the right picks, who maybe they should have gotten, and so on.
Yeah.
And I think it's good just to start with 2022. And we started off with a first-round pick for the Bengals, and we look at they take Dax Hill.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did is I went through and I said, okay, each time I listed who the next 5 picks were after that. Because you're thinking that maybe if you're not picking that guy, you're probably picking one of the next 5. Not really, but at least it gives you an idea of some of the people that they quote-unquote passed on. So that would be Lewis Seen, Logan Hall, Christian Watson, Roger McCreary, Breece Hall. Now, the one that you might want to throw in there is the 6th one, who is Jalen Petre. That's one that you could at least say, okay, I think he's graded a 73 last year for PFF. So that's one that you could at least argue. But I think Dax Hill, this is a massive year for Dax Hill because I don't think that pick is necessarily bad. I think it's still getting an incomplete.
Yeah, and those are the exact notes that I have. So just to kind of give a recap on Dax Hill here. Dax Hill was selected first round of 2022. Was drafted to really be the Jesse Bates replacement after the 2022 season. So, I mean, we really didn't get much of a rookie season out of Dax Hill. It was more or less of a redshirt season for him. He plays safety in 2023, and it wasn't very good. It wasn't good. Now, yeah, PFF is spazzing on me right now. Anyways, it could have been better, and it was bad enough to the point where the Bengals looked a different way for the free safety position. 43 coverage grade, 16% forced incompletion rate, a lot of passer rating of 115. The forced incompletion rate was pretty high. He was good at tackling, didn't have a lot of missed tackles, but when he did, they were going for touchdowns. So they pretty much move on from Dax Hill in 2023 at the free safety position. They put him at outside corner, and I thought that he had a pretty good season up until what did he tear his ACL, right, in 2023?
Correct. And he was doing really well playing that outside corner. And, he said last week or in the last couple of weeks, he talked to reporters and he says he expects to be ready for training camp. And that's huge because the Bengals, I mean, you've got some questions at corner.
Yeah.
I don't know who the 2, barring injury, you're thinking that probably the Bengals' second-round pick, and let's just go ahead and loop him in here because I think he's worth the conversation because he ties right in. The Bengals' second-round pick in 2022 of Cam Taylor-Britt. You're hoping that he will be a guy that would be one of the 2 starters. But then you've got 2 guys coming off of injuries, DJ Turner, who we're going to be talking about a little bit later, and Dax Hill to slot into that. But then also, Dax Hill's been thought of to be a potential slot guy. So maybe are you sliding him on the inside, or are you doing another guy that we're going to talk later, like a Josh Newton on the interior as well?
Yeah.
And that'll be a thing that we're going to talk a lot about here in 2 months. That's going to be a huge discussion point.
Yes. So it will be. It's who's going to be the nickel corner? Who's going to be the Mike Hilton replacement? We've heard Josh Newton being thrown out there. Obviously, we've heard Dax being thrown out there for that. I think DJ Ivey might be a sleeper at the nickelback position. So, yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, I feel like if they want to replicate the success, I mean, Dax Hill played more in the box as a free safety in 2023, and it wasn't a great season from him. Are we going to see him regress if he moves to that nickelback position? But they did pick up the 5th-year option on Dax. They seem to like him quite a bit, or else they wouldn't have done that. So, it's still largely an unknown as to whether Dax Hill was a good draft pick or not. But considering I feel like you could kind of call it a failure because he didn't end up panning out in the position where they wanted him to pan out.
And needed him to pan out.
Yeah.
Cam Taylor-Britt. Biggest thing with Cam Taylor-Britt is you trade up a couple of spots to do it. Something that the Bengals very, very, very rarely do, to trade up to get somebody. The next 5, Drake Jackson, who has battled injuries, is not in the NFL right now. Brian Cook, James Cook, Nick Bonito, and Luke Fortner. Now, you had some decent names on that list. Now, obviously, you want to look at this as, okay, would this have been a guy that the Bengals actually would have drafted? Like, would the Bengals have taken James Cook in the second round? I don't think so. That year.
No.
Yeah. So you're
now Brian Cook,
Taylor.
maybe.
Yeah.
But Brian Cook's also more of a safety than anything.
And you just took Dax Hill. So probably not going to do that. But I think Cam Taylor-Britt, gosh, what a pull, like he's a guy that I was sitting here trying to think about, like, how would I describe Cam Taylor-Britt? And it's just, you see so many moments where you're thinking, yes, the Bengals have their number one corner. And then you have moments like last year, multiple times, where they couldn't keep him on the field.
Yeah. Yeah. He had the grading didn't end up being like terrible for 2024, which is crazy. But yeah, I mean, he gave up a lot of big plays. He led the league in touchdowns given up, or he tied for the league lead. He gave up 10 touchdowns. He's charged with 10 touchdowns, 115 passer rating given up, but the grading wasn't terrible necessarily in 2024. 64 coverage grade, 10% forced completion rate. And those are in the 60th and 85th percentiles of cornerbacks. So it's going to be an interesting season for him. He's going to be fighting for a contract extension in the offseason. The Bengals don't have a lot of guys where we're for sure like, hey, they need to extend this guy when that comes about. So this could be really the make or break season for him.
Yeah, because if he has a good season, he's going to get paid.
Yeah,
he is going to get paid. And if he doesn't, I don't know what happens with Cam Taylor-Britt. I don't know what happens. Third round.
Also, PFF player pages aren't loading again, so that's great. So
okay, we'll make it work. That's okay. Third round. Mick's favorite player in Cincinnati Bengals history, Zach Carter. Ooh, boy.
No longer on the team.
Can we just say that did not work? That did not work.
No, and it's kind of weird because he was. I mean, it's not like they overdrafted for him either. It's.
I know Dane Brugler very much thought they did, because I remember Dane Brugler had Zach Carter as a 5th or a 6th round pick, and they took him in the 3rd. And if we're being honest, that's one that Dane Brugler can pat himself on the back, because Zach Carter probably played like a 5th or a 6th round pick throughout his career. But I think the biggest thing with Zach Carter is he was a tweener. And I think that didn't work come NFL.
Yeah. Tweener between a 5-tech and a 3-tech, right?
Yeah.
He wasn't big enough to be like a quality 3-tech defensive tackle, I don't think.
No. And he really just didn't have the size to be a defensive lineman in the NFL. And now that's probably where you look at the scouting department and say, okay, why are you drafting a guy like that? And I know that they're hoping they can put weight on him. And you're betting on intangibles, and in the 3rd round,
they tried to talk him up every offseason too, which is really funny. They're like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be the Zach Carter year." You know, he bulked up a little bit in the offseason. He's looking good in camp. Nothing ever happened. To be fair, there wasn't really any good defensive tackles that were selected after him either.
No, I looked. I scrolled a couple of rounds and didn't find anything.
No, I mean, Perion Winfrey was selected after him. He hasn't really done much. The only one I can even think, Otito Agbonia. He's starting for the Chargers, I believe. Matthew Butler selected in round 5 for the Raiders. I mean, it's just not. It wasn't a great defensive tackle class, even after Zach Carter. So, I mean, it's not like they could have done better if they were looking for a defensive tackle with that pick.
And they were. Fourth round, Bengals draft Cordell Volson, offensive lineman from North Dakota State. The next 5 picks, this is an interesting group here. The next pick after Cordell Volson was, I don't have it with me. Dang it, it's behind me. Bailey Zappi. There, I'm waving my red towel. Calvin Austin, Isaiah Likely, Zach Tom, and Demarion Williams. Now, Zach Tom, I think, is the one.
Zach Tom's actually good.
Yep, that's the one you circle, and you go, yeah, they probably should have gone Zach Tom over Cordell Volson, but I don't like Cordell Volson. I think considering he was a 4th-round guard, I think it's been a 4th-round guard. I think he's been what we expected him to be. Now, he took a little bit of a step back last year, but I think he is who he is.
Yeah, his first 2 seasons, I guess, were encouraging enough where you were like, man, is he really going to take that year 3 leap? And end up being, and end up being, a quality offensive guard in the NFL. It just never ended up panning out. But, the guy's been healthy pretty much his entire career. We've definitely seen worse guard play in recent memory on a Bengals offensive line. I guess you could kind of call this pick a hit in that regard because, he's a decent enough insurance policy on the offensive line where, if somebody goes down, and hell, he might end up being thrown back into the starting lineup in 2025. We don't know yet. It seems like it's going to be between him and Dylan Fairchild for that spot there. But it hasn't been the worst 4th-round draft pick the Bengals have had. It's been decent. It's been okay.
The Zach Tom thing is the one that you circle and you go, oof. Like that would have been nice.
Well, he's also a tackle too. Zach Tom.
Yeah, and Cordell Volson was drafted. Technically he was a tackle coming out of North Dakota State as well. But it just hasn't happened. And like Riley brings up the point here is how much of this is on Frank Pollock? You've got the new offensive line coach, Scott Peters, I believe is his name. You never know. And listen, and if Riley drops, maybe he becomes a Cody Ford under the new guy. I think a 4th-round guard to be Cody Ford, I think you're happy with that.
Yeah.
Just a average, like you're not drafting many guards. You're not drafting Quentin Nelson many in the 4th round.
No.
Like you're just not doing that. 5th round, Tyson Anderson. The next 5 picks after him was Deron Bland, who does have a Pro Bowl, Braxton Jones, Ty Chandler, Tegan Quitoriano, who I honestly did not know even existed. He's a tight end for the Texans, maybe? Yes. And Luke Wattenberg. I think Tyson Anderson, as a special teamer, is elite.
Yeah, he's one of the best gunners in all of football.
And in the 5th round, that's a win, right?
That is a win. And then also we've seen him make some good plays in the preseason. Had 2 pick sixes or at least 1 pick six in that
2 against the Packers, right? Yep.
2 interceptions. I can't remember if they were both pick sixes or not. But he's a guy that's kind of battled through some injuries in his rookie season. Didn't really see him come in and play until 2023. Started establishing his role as a gunner in the 2024 season. And yeah, I think he's good enough. I think if you threw him in to start, in the event that Battle or Geno Stone goes down, I think he could end up actually playing pretty decent at that level. He just hasn't had that opportunity yet. But for a 5th-round pick, at the very least, you're just hoping to get a good special teamer out of it, and that's what you got out of Tyson Anderson.
And then in the 7th round, and to me, 7th round picks are really hard to judge because really in the 7th round, you're drafting a wild card because a lot of guys you're not even expecting to make the team, and they drafted Jeff Gunter.
Yeah.
Now, because you look at this, like the next 5 picks, Russ Yeast, Elijah Hicks, Trenton Gill, Jesse Luketa, and Marquise Hayes.
Russ Yeast actually is starting. Yeah.
Yeah. For the Rams. But you're not seeing many guys in the 7th round that turn into starters.
No.
So because of that, Jeff Gunter was fine. And I know, didn't he just retire? I think, didn't he retire?
He never really got much of a chance. He ended up retiring, I think, this past offseason.
So as a whole, this draft class, Dax Hill, Cam Taylor-Britt, Zach Carter, Cordell Volson, Tyson Anderson, Jeff Gunter. What are we calling this? Like a C+?
Yeah. I mean, it's we don't have
but I think it's a C+ that could go to a B+ if you have big years from Dax Hill and Cam Taylor-Britt.
Yes. I can agree with that. I mean, I guess in order to judge of whether it's a good draft or not, I mean, what you want to hit on at least 4 of your draft picks, and they have an incomplete. I think Cam Taylor-Britt's been somewhat of a hit. I mean, I think he's played pretty solid football pretty much his entire career, even with the down year last year. Zach Carter, for sure miss. Cordell Volson,
I would say it's a hit. Fourth
round pick. He started for a few years, never really took that leap, but got some years out of him, or got some starts out of him, got some snaps. Tyson Anderson as a special teamer, he's a hit. So what? Probably 2.5, 3 hits out of 6 picks. 50%. I give it a C right now,
with room to grow. If you get a growth, or room to drop too. I mean, if Cam Taylor-Britt and Dax Hill don't improve, then you're looking at different.
Yeah.
Then we're having a different conversation. 2023, the next year, we get to start it off with a fun one. In the first round, the Bengals draft Myles Murphy. Now, the next 5 picks +1, I'm just going to do +1 because the +1 is going to be a big one for Bengals fans. Brian Breezy, you had Nolan Smith, Felix Anudike-Uzomah from the Chiefs, Joey Porter Jr., Will Levis, and Sam Laporta. Now, if you remember, who was every Bengals fan wanting them to pick when they got on the clock? Michael Mayer.
Yeah.
And Michael Mayer's really not that much
either.
Yeah, but also he's now behind that tight end. He's okay, right?
Brock Bowers. Yeah.
He's fine. Just probably going to be one of the best tight ends in the NFL in maybe next season, if he's not already. He's the next Travis Kelce in that realm of being talked about as being one of the feared guys. But for Myles Murphy, don't we have to give it almost an incomplete right now still? Rory thinks so.
Okay.
Or she just really not like Myles Murphy.
You got to give it an incomplete. She might not. I mean, I don't particularly like Myles Murphy that much either. So,
wow. I didn't realize Rory had so much hate in her heart.
She does. Anyways, I mean, it's still kind of an incomplete. Hopefully we get to see a little more reps out of him in the 2025 NFL season. I think we probably will, just given all of the unknowns that are at the edge rusher position. Just to note some guys that were taken after him at the edge rusher position. Nolan Smith, edge rusher for the Eagles, who's kind of an incomplete still, but I probably would have taken him over Myles Murphy. You have Felix Anudike-Uzomah for the Kansas City Chiefs, who is still an incomplete. Derek Hall for the Seahawks, who's been okay. Isaiah Foskey, not a great pick for the Saints. And BJ Ojulari from the Arizona Cardinals. So it's not like there's any robust guys at the edge rusher position that were taken after Myles Murphy here. Like no like Pro Bowlers or even like really like high-end quality starters, right? So still kind of an incomplete. But I mean, I feel like you have to call it a miss for now, really.
And I think that's fair. Second round, they go DJ Turner. Now, the guys after DJ Turner was Brenton Strange, one of my favorite names, Juice Scruggs, Marvin Mims, Zach Pickens, and Tyler Steen. DJ Turner, he last year, before he got hurt, I thought was really coming along. And I think you were finally starting to see him figure it out a little bit more.
Yeah, he should. Vast improvement in his coverage game. He was grading in the high 40s in his rookie year. We thought that he just wasn't physical enough to be a good outside corner in the league. And we didn't know if that was something you could really teach somebody to do. But we saw him kind of make a 180 in the 2024 season. Grade in coverage went up to a 68. Saw some really nice plays from him, especially in that Chargers game, in which he pretty much suffered that season-ending injury. But coverage grade at a 68, had a 74 passer rating while targeted, did not give up a touchdown, didn't record any interceptions, but that's okay. Decent missed tackle rate, 7.4% in coverage. I mean, I thought we had a pretty good season out of Dax Hill. Now, hopefully he can back that up in 2025, but I still feel like that's kind of an incomplete. Again, I mean, it's just we need to see these guys play for a full season in order to really gauge as to whether these guys were hits of draft picks or not.
In the third round, they go to the safety and they take a guy you really like, Jordan Battle. Behind him, you had Broderick Martin taken, a defensive lineman from the Lions, Hilltopper, shout out. Ricky Stromberg, Siaka Ika, Jake Moody, and Trey Tucker. Jordan Battle, he's your guy. I know you like Jordan Battle a lot, and I think he's had some good moments, and then he's had some moments that kind of make you question, and this is, like, again, we're just saying this with all these guys, this is a big year for him.
Yeah, another big year, like you just said. I mean, it's crazy that he was a top 10 rated safety in his rookie season in 2023, and then he gets benched for the ghost of Von Bell. Like, what kind of personnel decision are you really? What are we really being serious here? Like, what that completely curtailed his development as a good safety in this league. Like, he felt like a hit of a draft pick. He was the best graded player on the defense, not named Trey Hendrickson in 2023. And you don't start him in 2024. You don't let him build off of that campaign. That's malpractice, I think, from Lou Anarumo or Zach Taylor or whoever ends up making those calls at the end of the day. Now, I don't really care if he has a bad camp. Like, he produced on the field. Like, let him build off of that. And obviously the grading kind of suffered from that, even when they ended up playing him or thrusting him into action, because Von Bell was a shell of himself.
Yeah, I mean, you said it. That's where I think he is going to have the chance this year to have the full season. And what he does will be incredibly important, I think, to the success of the Bengals defense, especially on the back end of that. Fourth round, they go with Charlie Jones. Another incomplete. Could just because he can't stay healthy. The guys after him, Nick Herbig. And that's one that you probably wouldn't mind seeing on the Bengals defense. Tyler Scott, Jay Ward, Aiden O'Connell, Yasir Abdullah, and shout out to Bengals legend KJ Henry as well, taken right after Charlie Jones.
Bengals Bengal legend great.
KJ. Yep, Bengals legend. What's your favorite KJ Henry moment?
Thinking he was going to be a contributor as soon as we traded for him.
He has a Super Bowl ring, though. He's with the Eagles now. So, congrats to him, I guess.
Now, wide receivers that were selected after Charlie Jones, Tyler Scott, who hasn't been great, Justin Shorter. Then you get some decent receivers, Dontavion Wicks for the Green Bay Packers, selected out of Virginia in the 5th round, and a top 10 receiver in the NFL at the very least in Puka Nacua.
Yeah,
Ouch.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Yeah.
We got like the Walmart brand Puka Nacua in that draft, though.
We'll talk about him in a few minutes. Talk about him.
Yeah, we will.
5th round, though, I think is the best draft pick of this draft, without question, and that's Chase Brown. I mean, hit without question. Right after him, though, just to put things into, shout out to Mick's favorite quarterback in NFL history, Jaren Hall, was picked right after him. Shout out to Jaren Hall. If you know, you know. That was for Riley. Terrell Smith, B.J. Thompson, Henry Towel, and Owen Popo. Popo? I don't know that I know Owen Popo. Chase Brown, though, major hit. I mean, last year you saw that. And a major hit from Chase Brown.
Yeah, they finally evolved when it comes to the running back position and not taking a guy in the second round and going with the guy in a later round. He ended up panning out pretty well. Payne, fuck off, buddy. Payne, those asking why I just told Payne to fuck off. He played me in the fantasy championship where I started.
Oh, is it him that you lost to?
It was Payne.
I don't know that I knew that.
To.
Oh, that's hilarious. That's so funny. Shout out to Jaron Hall. But I mean, Chase Brown has been great for the Bengals. And last year he had a big season. And this year he could get paid.
He could. He could very well get paid. He's going into year 3. He was finally given the full-time starting gig after the Bengals. Another kind of case of
Lisa, that's not language, boys. I am watching my mouth. That is not me.
Also, it's my podcast. Say whatever I want within reason.
Yeah.
Not whatever.
Yeah. Let's be careful here.
Anyways, he's finally, brought into starting action, even though they brought in Zach Moss to pretty much take over that starting gig, which again, I don't know why they would do that when you've seen what you needed to get out of, you've seen what you were going to get out of Zach Moss year 2 into Zach Moss's career. But yeah, Chase Brown was pretty much great in every single facet that you needed out of the running back position. Almost eclipsed that 1,000-yard mark rushing. Showed really good ability as a receiver. His pass blocking took a step forward. That's probably the biggest hit in this draft class.
Without question. In the 6th round, and again, when we get into the 6th and the 7th, I think hits become easier to get. And I think Andre Yoshavash was a hit in the 6th round. I mean, if you're talking about a 6th round receiver, considering what he has been a hit for the Bengals. He's the best receiver. He's been better than Charlie Jones. And then also in the 6th round, we'll just loop these back together. 2 6th round picks. They take Brad Robbins. Now, the one thing that you want to say with Brad Robbins is that only one other punter was drafted after him, and there were no undrafted free agents. That was Ethan Evans, who is the punter for the Chargers?
Chiefs? No, not Chiefs.
No. I was looking at this earlier, and if I was good at my job, I would have Rams.
Oh, I'm looking it up right now.
Ethan Evans. He was the Rams. It is Rams. Okay. So I was partially right. So, Brad Robbins, maybe it was a miss, but was it really because you only had one other guy? I don't know. But I think Yoshi 100% was a hit for the Bengals so far.
Yeah. I mean, I've had some issues with Yoshi just as the starting wide receiver for the Bengals. Obviously, if not the drops, also just him being on the field just didn't have as much production as you want to see out of a guy with the snaps that he had. Now, part of that is also you had Jamar Chase and T. Higgins out on the field. What production are you going to have? And Mike Gesicki, who
and Chase Brown
has proven to be a big asset in the offense. And Chase Brown, who might have been 3rd on the team in targets actually last year. But yeah, I think it's a hit for a 6th round pick. For sure. I mean, he has shown, pretty good athleticism on the field, has made pretty clutch catches in the end zone. I mean, he had 6 touchdowns last year. So, I mean, for a 6th round pick and he's, being thrown into starting action and hasn't looked, it could look worse. I think it's a hit.
In the 7th round, they go DJ Ivey. And another one that you would probably say, considering a 7th round corner, I'd probably say it's been a hit too. When he's played, he's been decent.
Yeah. Ended up playing in 11 games last year. I didn't realize he ended up actually getting that much not starting, but I'm guessing special teams action.
Special teams experience.
I'd be able to pull up the special teams stats if PFF site didn't just crap out. So anyways, I just remember DJ Ivey from that. It was either the Colts or the Vikings game in 2023. And right before he got injured and he was out for the rest of the season and a little bit into 2024, we thought he was playing pretty good nickel back there for the Bengals. It was so yeah, I'll go ahead and give that a hit, I guess.
And I think Lisa's not really wrong in saying B or B plus on this draft. Now, a lot of that is see, I don't know that you can go much. I mean, because you're looking. I think, Miles Murphy, we'll say a miss. I think let's combine DJ Turner and Jordan Battle and call them combined is a hit. I think, one of those two is a hit. One hit.
One hit out of the first 3 picks. Really,
Chase
one
Brown,
hit out of the first 4.
Chase Brown a hit, Yoshi a hit, DJ Ivy a hit. So I think you're looking day 3, they killed it. They did really good.
Yeah,
you're looking at 3 hits on day 3.
But you also have to put a weight on this. Like, you should be weighing your first and your day 1s and 2s more than you're weighing your day 3s in that regard. So I can't give it more than a C because we have 1 hit out of the 3 picks in the first 2 rounds here.
And that's fair. And that's fair too as well. Okay, jumping into 2024, just to keep things rolling. This I really struggled because we're talking about incompletes. There's a lot of incompletes on this for the Bengals so far. First round, they take Amarius Mims. The 5 picks behind him: Jared Verse, Troy Fatanu, Chop Robinson, Quinyon Mitchell, and Brian Thomas Jr. I think, though, Mims, what we saw in year 1, I think if we have to say hit or miss right now, I think he's a hit right now.
Yeah. I think he proved to be pretty durable during the 2024 season, which is a question mark that he definitely had going into his career in the NFL. I think he had only 8 starts at Georgia, and already eclipsed that mark in his first season in the NFL. So that's good that he's proven to be durable. I think you saw some good, you saw some bad out of Amarius Mims. I think it's a pretty good
Lisa says you grade like her junior high algebra teacher. Tough.
Okay, that's maybe I do. I have high standards for this team, Lisa. Anyways, Amarius Mims, I think he's a pretty good baseline that he had in 2024. That's with Frank Pollock as his coach too. So hopefully Scott Peters can get a little more out of him. I think you might see a little bit of a year or 2 jump out of the guy as well. So I'll call that a hit for now.
In the second round, they go Chris Jenkins. Now the picks after him: Mike Sanderstill. That's one that you probably wouldn't mind seeing on the Bengals. Zach Frazier, A.D. Mitchell, Ben Sinnott, and Michael Hall Jr. Those were the 5 picks after. And I mean, right now, Chris Jenkins, it's a miss right now. But I think that there is a room for that to turn into a hit because he battled injuries last year. He had that played with a club for some of the season. How much did that impact him? How much did some defensive line issues around him cause issues? I guess this is trying to be the optimist in for Chris Jenkins, but he really didn't give a lot to be optimistic about.
No, he didn't. And the fact that they brought back BJ Hill after, because this is supposed to be Chris Jenkins' redshirt year. You'd see some snaps out of him. Hopefully you like what you saw and you would say, BJ Hill, thanks for all you've done for the team. Best luck elsewhere. And they brought back BJ Hill already to be the 3-tech starter on the defensive line. They obviously were looking at Walter Nolan in the draft, and he was selected the pick before the Bengals ended up selecting Shamar Stewart. I'm going to go ahead and call this pick a miss because it seemed like they were already trying to move on from the guy after 1 year in the league. And he was another guy who was kind of a tweener pick too. I think he might end up being like a Zach Carter, where he really should be playing edge at the NFL level or a 5-tech, and they're trying to throw him in at 3-tech, and it's just not working out for him.
I think that's fair. That's fair. Third round: Jermaine Burton.
Miraculously, he's still on the team.
And from what it sounds like, has maybe you're seeing some positive things from him.
Turned a new leaf.
I guess it's really hard to be much worse, considering it. But I mean, you're looking at, okay, compare him to the wide receivers. You know, Roman Wilson was taken in the next 5. He was a guy that I was very high on. I think you were as well. Didn't really do much, battled injuries last year in Pittsburgh. But the guy a little bit later on that Jermaine Burton is going to be compared to the rest of his career for Bengals fans is Jalen McMillan.
Is that because that's who the Bengals were looking at getting?
No, he was taken a little bit later on. So the Bengals took Jermaine Burton over Jalen McMillan. That's just kind of what I'm saying here. And you're hoping, like Lisa says, that Burton has seen the light.
He's got all the talent, man. He literally has the talent to be I still think he has the talent to be a top 20, top 15 NFL receiver. If he ends up taking off this year in this offense as a wide receiver 3, that's scary. That is horrifying to watch, because you have you're going to have the big 3 with Tyler Boyd, except the Tyler Boyd portion of that, whether it be Jamar in the slot or Jermaine Burton in the slot, is going to be way more explosive. So obviously still an incomplete with Jermaine Burton. You know, the stats in the regular season were great. Caught 14 targets, 107 yards. Did average 26.8 yards per catch. So, I mean, he was just running 9s the whole time. And obviously your catch rate's not going to be great if you're, you know, running deep routes pretty much the whole, you know, every time you're on the field. But I'm still holding out hope for the guy, I guess. And I didn't think he was going to be on the team after what happened towards the end of last year.
His leash, I'm not sure there's been a shorter leash in a while. Lisa says his demeanor at the softball event was great. Seems to have changed, and Burrow seems to be on board with him. And listen, if Joe Burrow gives his approval, then he has my approval, because there's only one person's approval that actually matters in that building, and it's number 9.
And another thing you got to think, just last year with the whole contract dilemmas with Jamar and T. Higgins, like, I can't imagine that the locker room or the wide receiver room had the best morale, I guess, when you have stuff like that lingering around. Was that, you know, was that not really the real culture that's really instilled in that wide receiver room? And maybe that is been what's helped Jermaine Burton in this offseason after those 2 contracts got figured out in this offseason. So, I mean, I'm interested to see if that's what it is, if you just needed leadership in the wide receiver room. Not to say that Jamar and T weren't good leaders, but obviously those types of situations, I think, probably way heavy on those guys. Yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see what Jermaine can do this year.
McKinley Jackson, you know, nose tackle taken in the 3rd round. And honestly, are we calling this a hit? I mean, it's too, like, if we had to call it hit or miss, I'd lean towards this being a hit, because he showed some flashes. At least. More flashes than Chris Jenkins did. But I really think he's a true incomplete.
Yeah, I still think he's an incomplete. Obviously came on pretty hot towards the end of the year. I mean, he was grading pretty terribly up until that Titans game in week 15. Then he posted an 87 run defensive grade, and then didn't grade below a 61.5 for the rest of the season. You saw good games, obviously against the Titans, like I just mentioned. He had a good game against the Broncos, graded an 81.9. I think you'd like to see better pressure rates out of him. I mean, he only had 7 pressures last year and 1 sack. I know he's the nose tackle and the run defensive guy, and that's really what you're drafting him to do. But if he could take that step forward in his pass rushing, he could be as dominant as DJ Reader. And I think that's what you were looking for him to do. Now, I'm hoping that the Bengals didn't, you know, have another roster malpractice decision by bringing in TJ Slayton and then curtailing McKinley Jackson's development because you're throwing TJ Slayton on the field too much. You know, so that's just one thing that, I mean, we're going to be looking at pretty closely this year as to what they're going to do. But still, he's an incomplete. I can't really call him a hit yet.
That's fair. I think your worry about the Slayton thing is very fair, without question. Eric All in the fourth.
You like Eric All a lot.
I do like Eric All a lot, but the injury thing, and it's so hard for a guy who has, like, he had injury history. When you're getting into day 3, that's where you can afford to take a risk. But when he was on the field, he showed some flashes of doing some stuff, and now he's out for the entire season. So I think we just got to immediately call him an incomplete because we're not going to see him until 2026.
No, we're not. We're not going to see him until 2026. I liked what I saw out of him in 2024. He was like a little more explosive version of Drew Sample. Pretty sure-handed. Only had one incompletion thrown his way. Caught 20 of 21 passes, but only 158 yards. Only averaging 7.9 yards per catch. So he still has he had some work to go in terms of the explosiveness. But when you have Mike Gesicki on the field as that more explosive tight end that can get some of those rack yards, you really just need maybe a better version of Drew Sample as your inline tight end. So yeah, I mean, I think I liked what I saw out of Eric All. If he completed the season, didn't have that injury, he would be a hit, I think. But
Josh Newton in the fifth. Listen, I'd say this is probably a hit. He showed some signs and very well could be your starting slot corner this year. So therefore, I think you got to call him a hit.
Yeah, I'd go ahead and call him a hit as well. I liked what I saw out of Josh Newton. Had a 60.9 defensive grade, 60.9 coverage grade. Wasn't terrible. Definitely, the grading could get better, but it wasn't bad, especially for a 5th round draft pick. I'll go ahead and call Josh Newton a hit. And I like the demeanor he has on the field. I think he plays really tough.
I do. I agree. Tanner McLaughlin, I don't know that we can really say anything about him because we didn't see him at all. He was inactive, I think, every single game except for one. So he definitely is an incomplete and I don't even think that one game that he saw any snaps on the field, if he did, it was just a couple. I really liked him coming out, but you're just looking at a major, major question mark with that.
Yeah, and it's surprising because I liked what I saw in the preseason out of Tanner McLaughlin too. Just the limited action we saw. He had the explosion that I wanted to see out of Eric All, at least in those preseason games. He had better length. It just seemed more dynamic on the field, and he still didn't end up getting more reps than Tanner Hudson. Like you thought you thought Tanner Hudson was going to be kicked off the roster pretty much or cut from the roster because of this draft pick, and just nothing has really panned out for Tanner McLaughlin. I'm going to go ahead and call this a miss because I don't think it's going to get any better.
Yeah, and that's I just think it's so hard to judge him. But I mean, listen, if he would have been doing something in practice, you would have seen it. So clearly something is off there. As to why he wasn't getting any snaps, especially after the injury to Eric All. Cedric Johnson later in the 6th round. Listen, I mean, late 6th round defensive end. I think you got to call. I mean, he at least, had a big sack again in the Broncos game, right? Was it the Broncos game that he had his sack? I think, again, because we have to think if Cedric Johnson's output would have been a 2nd round pick, we would have said, yeah, no. But I think for 6th round, you got to call him at least a partial hit, right?
Yeah. Let's see, where did he end up on the team in pressures on very limited stats? I'm going to look that up real quick. But I'll still give Cedric Johnson an incomplete because he really just hasn't been on the field enough. But I've liked what I've seen from Cedric Johnson. I think I liked him when they drafted him. I thought that he definitely had some stay power on the roster as a backup edge rusher. Finished 13th on the team in pressures. Where how much? 13th on the team with pressures, and actually 13th on the team in pass rush snaps. So I guess I don't know. Don't know what to think about that. I thought he was going to be higher up the ranking ladder on pressures there, but I liked what I saw out of him regardless. So I'll call that I guess I'll call that a hit for now.
Yeah, I think for a sixth round guy, he did what you did. In the 7th, you had Dejon Anthony and Matt Lee. Matt Lee, I think we have to call it incomplete. We both are very high on Matt Lee, but I don't know. Did he have any snaps? And if he did, it was nothing of any.
It's like goal line offense.
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Nothing that you're actually going to actually judge or anything on. And then Dejon Anthony, sadly, when we think about Dejon Anthony, we're thinking of one play.
Yeah.
And it's not like you're calling him a bust based on one play. Are you?
No, he's a bust. Not
based on one play.
With that. Yeah, based on a phantom PI call that was called on him. Where, God, that play pisses me off so much, and it's not his fault. Those refs those refs suck. Had some special team snaps in there as well. 77.4 special teams grade, 168 snaps. I think he might have led the team in special team snaps. Yeah, I'll call that a hit. That's all you need out of a 7th round pick.
And I think we're both saying Matt Lee will be a hit.
As long as he stays on the roster, I'll call Matt Lee a hit. Like, really, that's all you really want your 7th round center to do is to stay on the roster. So if that's the case, then Trey Hill was also a hit.
Okay. Trey Hill was 6th though, wasn't he? Wasn't he a 6th round pick? I think he might have been. So that's different,
well,
right?
It's also usually what you want out of a 6th round pick too.
So I think 2024, it's so hard to judge this after only 1 year. I think, are we looking in the C range?
Let's see.
Because, I mean, you're looking, so Mims hit. McKinley Jackson we'll call a hit. We'll call McKinley Jackson a hit.
I'll give Jackson and all a combined one.
Okay,
hit.
Okay, I'll agree to that. Josh Newton hit. Cedric Johnson hit. Anthony and Lee, I think we'll say combined for a hit. How about that?
Yeah, I'll give it a B.
You're looking
I'll give this draft a B. Yeah. Especially if Jermaine Burton can pan out and your 3 out of your first 4 picks end up being hits, then that's good.
Lisa says you were going to say D.
Hell, if Chris Jenkins can end up panning out, I mean, this is a B+, A-, I think.
So the Bengals drafting, I think you're seeing some good things, and I'm interested in 1 year. We'll have to look back at the 2025 draft and see how that appears for sure. Who knows what we'll be talking about next week? We got some things planned. We'll have a Jungle Juice joust here in a couple of weeks as well.
Are we doing that?
I'm looking forward to that. I have an idea for that. I want to talk. We can talk about that maybe in the next couple of days on how that can work. But the joust should be fun. We're looking forward to that. And maybe it will be in 2 weeks with this. Should drafts be graded on a curve in comparison to the rest of the league? Some drafts are way better overall than others. Drafts are so hard.
They should be drafted on a curve, Alex. I agree. Like you really should be using a ranking system amongst teams to really grade drafts. We just don't. I don't know if I really have the time to do that.
Mm-hmm. We don't
for an hour show. But yeah, I mean, I think that's the way a draft really should be drafted, or a draft should be graded. I agree.
100%. Well, this was fun to dive into that. We'll see you back next week for the next week's edition of the show. Do you have any parting thoughts? Other than follow us and 5-star rating and all that?
Yeah, wish me luck at the Florence Y'all's game for Margaritaville night on Saturday.
Yeah, I don't think I'm gonna be able to make it. I've got work obligations.
It's gonna be a bad day to be a margarita, or a bad day to be a Hawaiian shirt because I'm a slob. I'm gonna get some margarita on it at some point. So,
oh boy, just don't get banned from the Y'alls. Just don't get banned from the Y'alls.
I don't think you can get banned from the Y'all Stadium. Honestly, I don't think
I don't. You'd find a way. You'd probably find a way. We'll see you back here next week for next week's edition of the show, Mick. Hoo day.
Hoo day. Thanks for watching.